Welcome to Linguistics Tube. This episode is part of my series which explores the skills involved in debating. Through these episodes, you will learn and practice several essential techniques that will allow you to perform debates successfully and easily. In this episode, we will examine debate motions. Firstly, I'll discuss the process of choosing a debate motion. Then, we'll think about what makes a debate motion strong or weak. And secondly, think about how to define a motion for use in a debate. If you haven't yet watched my introduction to debating episode, then I recommend doing that first, as I discussed the basic information about debate motions in that episode. When planning your debate, perhaps the first thing you will do is to decide your topic. This is called your debate motion. Choosing your motion might seem like an easy decision to make, but actually you must think carefully about the nature and wording of your debate topic, because a weak motion will lead to a weak debate. Before we compare strong and weak motions, let's go through the basics. Remember that, most fundamentally, a debate, and therefore a debate motion, must be argumentative. This means that the topic of the debate is a point of view that is capable of being argued. Or in other words, it is an arguable opinion. Therefore, it is possible for a debate motion to have an opposite point of view. We refer to this as the other side of the topic. Let's look at an example to demonstrate this. If your debate motion is "smoking should be banned in all public places," then this is one team's opinion. It is entirely possible for the other team to argue the opposite of this. So they would argue that smoking should not be banned in all public places. In your debate, each team needs to explain why their point of view is a valid point of view, and your goal is to persuade the audience that your side of the topic is stronger than the other team's side. Let's now discuss how to phrase a debate motion, as there are some rules that you must pay attention to. Firstly, your motion must be phrased as a statement, which is just a normal sentence. Occasionally, debate motions are phrased as a question, but this is not a good idea, because it is not clear from a question which is the side of the topic that the affirmative team agrees with, and the side that the negative team agrees with. For example, if your motion is, "Should animal testing be banned?" then we don't know whether the affirmative team believe that it should be banned or it should not be banned. Therefore, the motion must either be "animal testing should be banned" or "animal testing should not be banned." Next, I highly recommend that you use one of these four structures to write your debate motion. Firstly, something should or should not something. For example, esports should have the same respect as traditional sports. 2. Something be more adjective than something. For example, online lessons are more effective than face-to-face lessons. 3. Something is adjective. For example, using mobile phones while driving is dangerous. 4. Something has something. For example, TikTok has a negative influence on society. Using one of these structures will guarantee that your debate motion is argumentative. Now that we've discussed how to make your topic argumentative and how to structure the language of your motion, let's think about what topics create interesting debates. I recommend choosing a topic that is relevant to your debate group and meaningful to your group members' lives. Therefore, the best topics are usually related to technology, recent local, national, and global events, life at school and university, as well as topics about daily life, society, and culture. In contrast, I recommend avoiding topics like the death penalty, abortion, plastic surgery, prostitution, assisted suicide, and animal testing. These are quite boring because they are overused and cliché, and they probably don't have a direct connection to your group members' lives. Now that we understand the basics of choosing a motion for your debate, let's explore motions more deeply. As I said earlier, you must think carefully about the nature and wording of your debate topic, because a weak motion will lead to a weak debate. If the motion for your debate is strong, the topic will naturally generate several valid arguments on both sides of the topic. So, there will be several reasons both for and against the debate topic. In contrast, a weak debate motion will inevitably discriminate against one of the debate teams, and thus not give both debate teams an equal opportunity to debate. This is because weak motions don't have the same number of valid arguments for both teams. It is essential to avoid choosing a weak motion for your debate at the beginning of your planning. Let's now look at how to choose a strong debate motion. We'll see some examples of strong and weak motions. Here are 4 examples of strong debate motions, which display the 4 structures of an argumentative motion. Policemen should carry guns. EQ is more important than IQ in society. Strict epidemic prevention methods are very effective. Violent video games have a negative impact on children. All of these will generate an interesting and high-quality debate, because both teams will easily be able to think of several valid arguments. In contrast, an example of a weak motion is human rights are valuable. It might sound okay, because it uses one of my recommended structures, and so it is an argumentative motion. However, it is weak because it discriminates against the negative team. Specifically, the negative team will need to argue that human rights are not valuable, and therefore we don't need human rights. Bearing in mind that your goal is to persuade the audience that your side of the topic is better than the other team's side, this is clearly a very difficult and ridiculous viewpoint for the negative team to argue. As a result, the debate will most likely be won easily by the affirmative team, even if the affirmative team don't perform as strongly as the negative team, only because the nature of the topic means that the affirmative team have an easier opportunity before the debate has even begun to win. Therefore, because this motion doesn't have the same number of valid arguments for the negative team, both debate teams do not have an equal opportunity to debate, and so this motion discriminates against the negative team. Now that we've discussed the factors involved in strong and weak motions, let's explore how the motion should be defined. If you don't know what defining the motion means, then please watch the episode in this series that introduces the basic concepts of debating. The job of defining the motion, for its use by all speakers in the debate, is done by the first speaker of the affirmative team in the opening statement. Remember that defining the motion is not simply reading a dictionary definition of the important words, it is explaining how you have interpreted those words for use in the debate. Therefore, the first speaker of the affirmative team must explain clearly what he or she believes the motion means. In order to do this, the speaker must do two things. Firstly, he or she must state the scope of the topic. As I explained in my introduction video, your debate group must make a choice between a narrow scope, which means that the words are interpreted in a specific way, and a broad scope, which means that the words are interpreted very generally. Secondly, the first speaker of the affirmative team must ensure that his or her team's definition is logical and balanced. This means that the definition must create an equal opportunity for the negative team to create valid arguments, and therefore the same opportunity as the affirmative team to win the debate. I said on the previous screen that the definition of the motion must state the scope of the topic. In order to do this, like I already mentioned, your debate group must firstly identify which words in the motion need to be defined. Then, when creating your definition of each word, you must remember that you should not simply repeat a dictionary definition of each word. Instead, a high-quality definition of the motion will contain your group's interpretation of the words. So, if your debate group wants to explore many aspects of the topic in little detail, then the affirmative team should define the motion broadly, in a way that includes a full range of issues. On the other hand, if you only want to discuss a few specific issues in lots of detail, then it makes more sense to define the words in a narrow way, so that the debate doesn't stray into unrelated areas later on. You can see a good example of defining a debate motion in both a narrow and a broad way in my Introduction to Debating video. So, the affirmative team are responsible for defining the motion in their opening statement. Therefore, what do the negative team do? Are they involved in the definition at all? Well, it depends on the level of preparation and cooperation of both debate teams. In a typical debate, both teams prepare separately, and so they do not discuss their viewpoints, arguments, and evidence before the actual debate itself. This means that the negative team do not know the affirmative team's definition of the motion before they hear it in the affirmative team's opening statement after the debate has started. Therefore, it is possible that the negative team's speaker 1 might, in his or her opening statement, disagree with the affirmative team's definition if he or she thinks that the affirmative team's definition discriminates against the negative team, does not give them an equal opportunity to create valid arguments, and limits their ability to win the debate. On the other hand, if you need to perform a debate as an assignment at school or university, then your debate will most likely be planned in advance. In this situation, both debate teams will work together from the beginning to prepare every part of the debate. Therefore, both teams will know exactly what each team will discuss in the debate. Because the negative team will know the affirmative team's definition of the motion in advance, there is no need to waste time during the negative team's opening statement to disagree with the motion. Instead, I highly recommend that both teams agree on the definition during the preparation of the debate, and in the debate itself, the negative team accepts the affirmative team's definition during the negative team's opening statement. You might be thinking, if the negative team agrees with the affirmative team's definition, doesn't it make the negative team look weak? Doesn't it feel like the affirmative team have already won the debate? Shouldn't the negative team disagree with everything the affirmative teams say? Well, don't worry about this. Even though I recommend that the negative team agrees with the affirmative team's definition, this doesn't mean that the negative team agrees with the affirmative team's viewpoint. These are two very different things. Therefore, agreeing with the definition simply means that both teams agree that they are debating the same thing. After agreeing with the affirmative team's definition, in the negative team's opening statement, the negative team's speaker 1 must clearly present his or her team's viewpoint, and most importantly, the team's reasons for disagreeing with the affirmative team's point of view. If the negative team doesn't do this in the opening statement, then the debate will be difficult to follow, because the audience won't clearly understand the differences between the team's viewpoints. This is the end of the video about debate motions. If you liked what you heard, then you can find more videos in my debating skills series, as well as other series on the topics of English and linguistics. Thank you for watching.